Hello, bonjour, hola, salam alaikum, and welcome to the Mo Ibrahim Foundation Conversations with the Now Generation. It's January, the start of a new year, and today we're asking, what is the economic outlook for Africa in 2022?
How do we get to that world where young people actually do have the right agency, right, to be able to create the future that the continent needs? Because I think that that's the only way we're going to be able to create inclusive, job-creating economies like you described. It's already happening in some ways in tech, and I think that needs to be catalyzed a lot further. But young people have to be at the forefront of that. But I don't see our policymakers doing as much in terms of creating that enabling environment. And I would love to hear your thoughts on how do we get to that world, because I think that that's the key.
It is not a question of whether young people should be given the opportunity. Young people should seize the opportunity. When Africa became independent, it was young people who led the struggle for independence. Many of our leaders in the 60s, or those who led the independence struggle, were in their 30s, sometimes even their 20s. They didn't ask for anyone's permission. They led the struggle for independence. They made some mistakes along the way, by the way, some of them. So don't ever assume that because you are young, you're also free from making some mistakes.
I'm a bit worried about the fact that we are really indebted already to China. And I'm like, do you see this as, something that can impede Africa post-recovery answer, and any risk really coming with this, considering the fragility of the countries and the kind of governance we have today?
Now, when it comes to China, so look at the numbers. And I'm happy to pursue this conversation with you. China's share of Africa's total debt is 20%, about 20%, mainly from China Exim Bank and the China Development Bank. A lot of it has gone to build infrastructure, rails, airports, highways. You can see an asset against it. Sometimes based on collateral, on commodities, oil, and the rest of it. And this is concentrated around about 6-7 countries. All right? And it's something which we need to manage. But let me tell you, Fabrice, China is lending to everybody in the world. The biggest borrower from China is the United States of America. European countries are borrowing from China. Asian countries are borrowing from China because they are capital surplus. So what is wrong for Africa to borrow from China? If we can borrow safely, manage it well, and invest well, what is wrong with that?
So while we continue to implement economic programs, increasingly you see that those numbers most times are not realistic to the population demands. And there is a need for effectiveness in terms of data mining when it comes to every area, health, poverty alleviation schemes towards economic transformation. And it's quite critical for nations to begin looking at this element of data and numbers so that we don't have, an imbalance in terms of, the spread of the gains.
And one thing that is becoming a boom currently in most sub-Saharan African countries as they try to address the issue to do with access to electricity for all is the mini-grid boom. Yeah, and that is one thing that it's considered like a silver bullet to actually address all the energy access challenges that many African countries or African households are actually facing. And if you look at that energy system, it's actually one of the most expensive energy system, I would say. Yet it's targeting the bottom of the pyramid kind of household.
I think the one last comment that I was just going to leave has to do with African agency, because Dr. Kaberuka started this conversation about talking about the deficits in multilateral action. I think that also sort of needs to be addressed. And what I would like to see is also stronger African representation, as it were, in multilateral conversations in general, because I think it affects everything that we've talked about, from vaccine distribution to even in negotiations at COP 26, 27, hopefully, and things like that. So I think that that's something that I would like to see.
I just want to say that we're really at a stage of reimagining policies and trade relationships, and it's become very, very clear that over the next 10 years, we need homegrown strategies to tackle the triple threat of poverty, inequality, and unemployment.
You know, it's pretty clear that young people are already doing a lot and are driving some of the growth that we're seeing in the private sector as we talk to startups and other entrepreneurs on the continent. But I think one thing that came out for me in this conversation and is also the need to keep people accountable when we talk about bringing more young people into governance. And really that starts with education and making sure that we are all equipped with the right skill to govern and to lead the development.
Hosh, I want to thank these young people for really being such pioneers. It's the kind of conversation we should be having much more often. I've learned from you as well.